Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the War in the West. So, this is a campaign that I've decided to start, and we will see where it goes. Now, this is the 106-turn campaign, basically 1943 to 1945, July 3rd to whatever date the Wehrmacht and the Third Reich is crushed, inevitably, along with the Kriegsmarine and the Luftwaffe, and obviously the NSDAP party itself, along with the SS, and etc, etc, basically the Third Reich. So, Europe is occupied. We have liberated North Africa, but things are not yet settled. We are to conduct an invasion of Sicily. No mere commando raids, no small-scale operations, no ramming destroyers into ports. No, this is a full-blown invasion of Sicily. The liberation of Europe begins today. So, we are in the air planning phase here. Now what that means is basically we have to use our air assets and use them wisely. So, let's see. So we have the Tactical Air Force over here of the Mediterranean. Indeed. So we have the Mediterranean Allied Air Force, the Coastal Air Force, and the Air Force Headquarters. Right, so let's take a look at the order of battle and then we can work out who is in charge of who. So we have RAF Headquarters. So we have Mediterranean Allied Air Forces. So we have the Maltese Air Command, the Strategic Air Force, the Tactical Air Force, and the Coastal Air Force, and the Troop Carrier Command. Now, Strategic Air Force is who I want to be taking a look at to begin with. Though if we take a look at the Maltese Air Command, we can see here we have 176 fighters and about 19 bombers. I imagine those being to the coastal bomber variety. Now if we look at the Strategic Air Force, we have 218 fighters, 744 bombers, and 30 auxiliaries. The Tacticals, we have 557 fighters and 508 bombers with 137 auxiliary. Coastal, you have 320, 208, 126 auxiliary, and then 564 auxiliary here. So that's a colossal air force. That's an absolutely massive air force there, larger than a many number of nations in the world. And so if we take a look at the order of battle in terms of numbers, we can see here that the Germans have about 2,348,732 men active at this moment in time, with about 33,404 artillery pieces, 1,694 armoured fighting vehicles, 3,081 aircraft of the Luftwaffe, which is completely dwarfed by the Allied, forces at arms here. Indeed. They do have slightly more artillery than we do. We do have far more armoured fighting vehicles than they do, though the quality does depend. I mean, the thing is, in the Second World War, and well, in any sort of war today, in terms of tank combat, it's more who has the first shot. Obviously, technology does make a huge difference. Like, I mean, if you have an M4, well, M14, was it M1? M1A4 Abrams? I can't remember it. Anyway, go with the Challenger 2. So if we have a Challenger 2 versus like an old type T-64 or something like that, that's still around today, yeah, the T-64 might get the first shot, but the armor is going to have a really good chance of stopping that, and then the Challenger 2 would absolutely destroy the T-64. So that's what I'm talking about, really. Okay. So, I want Strategic Air Command, so we're going to go back to the order of battle. We're going to go to the Strategic Air Force over here. And we have James H. Doolittle. Interesting, isn't, was he responsible for the raid on Tokyo? I feel like I've seen that name before. I'm not very clued up on the Allied forces, honestly. I'm more of a know about Russian forces and the German forces than anything else. Okay. Right, doctrines. So we can see here the altitude. Right, so we bomb cities, we bomb in the day. Reconnaissance, we don't choose. Partial escorts. Naval patrol partial escorts follow path. Obviously, they would follow a certain path into the actual target. Which, honestly, could be useful. The issue is it does make it easier to be intercepted, though it does allow us to sort of weave our way between heavy defences. Okay. So this is minimum weather they will travel in, the intensity, how many days they'll bomb, so they'll bomb on the second day and the fifth day. Ground attack is throughout the entire week, reconnaissance is entire week, superiority entire week, naval patrol entire week. So it's only bombing cities where it's different. Ground support obviously depends on the battle. Percent required to fly is 20, so we could obviously increase that so we could reduce the well, the numerical, well, it would reduce the frequency of attacks, but obviously we'd fly in greater numbers, so therefore we'd probably lose less planes due to the concentration of force and also deal more damage. So we may change that in the future to have about at least 40% potentially, maybe more. I think we'll go for about 40%. We'll increase that. I'd rather have more planes to make more of a dent. Okay. Target priorities. Aircraft is low, the rail yards is going to be high for the moment in time. Oil and fuel, it doesn't really matter for me at the moment, so I'm going to put that on low priority. Fuel, high. Heavy industry doesn't matter, vehicles doesn't matter right now. Armaments, I'm going to put down to low as well. The reason being, I want to hit their logistics, I want to hit their rail yards, and I want to hit their fuel depots. The reason being that really prevents them from fighting. So if I can go for the vehicles as well, actually, that could be quite good. So I have vehicles on normal. There we go. Now ports ignore. Resources ignore. Okay. Airfield high. So that's obviously ground attack. Yeah, we'll keep it high for the airfields. So we're going to go with the strategic bombing then. Now if we take a look over here, and we take a look at industry. So we can see over here for Catania, we have rail depots, well we have rail logistics, we have manpower, we have a port, we only have manpower over here. While as, let's find an industrial site. Let's see, trying to find one. Italian industry is really quite far in the north. Or in Naples. So if we take a look at Naples, we can see that it has a port, resource production, fuel production, and heavy industry. Rome has some resource production, heavy industry, and armaments production. And the vast majority of the production from the Italians takes place in the northern area here. So in terms of actually production in Sicily, it's not exactly great. So something I want to show off before we decide our targets is basically somewhat how logistics works. So we're going to go over to Great Britain to show this. So we have resources produced in different cities, so let's see. Now if I go to Britain, and we go to... Right, so armaments production. So obviously that produces arms. Now we have the three types of supply. So if we take a look at a unit, we'll be able to show that off. Okay, so we have general supplies, that's ammunition, well... Let's see. So we have supply, which is obviously this one at the top. We have fuel, and then this one, which is like, I'm going to call it like general supply. Well, munitions is ammo and support. So it's all kind of lumped in together, really. Supplies like basic food, but supports like your sort of ammunition, your, I don't know, uniforms, that sort of thing. So we'll go with that. We'll have supplied like sort of like food and that general stuff. Ooh, Crusader 2s. Cool. I like the Crusaders, I think they're pretty cool. Shermans, Stuarts. Nice. Cromwell being a really fast tank actually. Hugely fast. 40 Sexton. Anyway. The Daimler Dingo. Awesome name. Okay, so obviously we have requirements there. As if I take a look at the Guards Armoured, we take a look at supply details, we can see here the unit has in it, at the moment, 100% of its supplies, so 303. 107% fuel, so 343 tons of fuel. Well, we'll go with tons. It's easier to say tons and have like a generic unit of measurement. 1,645 tons of ammo, and then 3,579 trucks. So you can see here they require 3,872, so they're actually down here, while in fuel they're above their quota. So that's what they require. So if we take a look here, in the rail lines, so they're just outside London. Well, they're technically in London. Trying to find a... Okay. Right. If I go... Right, here we go. Okay, so the logistics depot over here has 125,000 stored. capacity is 480,000. Right, so London. So we can see here that we have 75,000 tons of fuel, 75,000 tons of supply, 75,000 tons of oil, and 1,000 tons of resources. So that's what we have in there. Now, going back to what I was talking about with production earlier, I know it's a little bit convoluted. It's quite difficult to explain, really. But anyway, so we're going to go to Britain, and then we'll go to the... let's see... armaments production. Okay, so we have armaments produced in Cardiff, West London, Reading, Stoke-on-Trent, Sheffield, etc., etc. So they basically flow from the cities to the depots. So the depots here are represented by these arrows here. Basically, we have a depot in all these locations. The number represents a priority, so you have a priority of 0 to 4. So 4 being the highest priority, 0 being the lowest priority, i.e. don't send anything there. 1 being the priority above that, so something will be sent there, but things will be sent to the priority depot first, and then the third, and then the second, and then the first, and then obviously 0 they don't take into account. Now, it's a little bit interesting. It's been a while since I've explained this regarding rails, and I do need to do some reading up. This is more of a preface. It's not really a true episode 1. We're just going to talk about the game in general and what we need to do, how things work to a degree, and then we'll get into it more and more as time goes on. This will be the campaign to replace the Dies Irae campaign in War in the East. At least until War in the West 2 is out. Sorry, War in the East 2 is out. I can't wait for that one. I'm still trying to get my way into the beta. They'll do it. Probably. Probably not, but we'll try and get there. So anyway, supply flows from the production centres to depots. And then, say, if we're trying to supply, say we land over here at Cherbourg, or like in the, was it Contine Peninsula? Contine Peninsula. This area over here, anyway. So if we land over here and we capture that port, the supply would probably flow from the greatest port, or it might flow from different ports. The rails can handle only a certain amount of logistics. I think the, I think it's like 0 to 10 or 20k or 15k supplies, or tons of supplies can travel through here, and it still counts as green, so there's no penalties. But obviously, as it goes into a certain bracket, like once you go over that sort of amount of rail and freight passing through here, then it'll go to a yellow. Let's see if I have yellow anywhere. No, not right now, because we have logistics that are working fine. So anyway, you can tax your rail systems. So once it goes to yellow, that means that there's a going to be a penalty due to the sheer amount of freight trying to go down one rail line. And then it goes to red, where it's even worse. So obviously that indicates the sheer amount of rail capacity and freight going through there. So that's how it works, and then it'll travel through ports, and then into another port, and then to a depot. And that's how you transfer supplies. So what we want to do then is basically, let's go and let's take Tunis, for example, over here. Right, so Tunis. So the number here, so we have 4 rail yards here. Okay? So we have 1, 2, 3, and then the rail yard inside the city itself. Obviously the connections here. If I was to take a look at London here, you can see the rail yard is 9, so there's 9 connections there. Is the easiest way I can explain it. So we're connected with 9 different lines. So obviously the amount of freight over here is vastly different to the amount of freight that can travel to Tunis. Obviously you have the different lines. So the way it works is basically, say that we're going to send supplies from Constantine, and we wanted that to go to Tunis. It would travel either up here, or well, they'll travel in different ways. So it would travel up here, and then back down here potentially, but that would take too long. So what it'd probably do is travel this way, and then through here. The issue is it's going to go down this one rail line here, and things are going to become quite difficult. So what it may do then is perhaps have supply sent down here as well, and then through this second rail line. It takes longer, but you can send more logistics by spreading it out. So that's what we need to do, is we need to take out the logistical centres for the Axis in Sicily. Now, Catania has 2 rail yards. Messina has 3 rail yards. So what we need to do is we need to take out these logistical hubs. So we can see 3 over here as well. Also port. So we have a level 5 port over here. We have a level 4 port here. Catania has 4. Okay. So if I was to be a betting man, I'm imagining that the supply into Sicily is either going to Palermo or into Messina. Messina most likely due to the fact that they have Reggio Calabria over here. and it's a shorter path for them to travel, and therefore safer. So what we need to do then is we need to target these 3 key cities. So, let's bring up the drawing tool. Where's my drawing tool? There we go, okay. One moment. Right, okay, let's get a colour. Okay. Right, so we have Messina over here. Palermo and Catania. Or Catania. I don't know how you pronounce it, I'm not Italian. So these are the major hubs here. So if I switch to a blue over here, so we'll draw on the rail lines. So if we see the rail lines here, you can see how they work and how they function. So this one's rather interesting, if really inefficient. So what we need to do then is hit Messina. That should limit the amount of freight coming out of here. If we can damage these rail lines significantly enough, we can make it really hard. And the thing is, you can also target the rail lines in between as well. Obviously, they'll have to go out and fix them. They will be repaired over time because, I mean, damaging a rail line, it was a pain, but it was something that could be fixed relatively quickly. Obviously, it did put strain on the logistics network during that time, though. So, that's what we need to do. The thing is, there's no one true logistics hub. I'd say probably Messina and Palermo, but Catania could do the same job as well, as they all have ports. But we'll travel... Well, we'll send our planes to travel over here and then hit these areas. I think these are the 3 priorities. So, yes, so 1 is... Sina. God, this is difficult. I wish I had a stylus for this sort of stuff. 2 is... Palermo. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. Blue on blue. Blue and blue? Oh my, you can tell this is the first video of the day. I talk like an idiot. And then Syrah, well, not Syracuse. We'll just ignore that one. Ignore that. Ignore it. There we go. Car. Then, yeah. More or less. Anyway, these are the 3 priorities here. Okay. Moving on. Talked quite extensively about that. We'll go back to the order of battle. And we'll go to the Strategic Air Force Command over here with James H. Doolittle. So supply priority is 4 here, so what we need to do then is we need to set some actual doctrines and some actual missions. Well, we've already set our doctrines, we need to set our missions. So strategic bombing over here. Okay. Where are we? There we go, Strategic Air Force. Right. Obviously this is showing the different cities that they can target. Obviously range is a big thing. I mean, you can base from different airfields, you can fly to one and then fly to another, but yeah, that takes time. So let's see. Can I... Right, so we can sort of change what we're looking for here. I wish you could sort it by regions, that would be quite nice. Right, so what we're looking for then is... We'll put none on for the moment. We'll go for... So that's vehicles. Right, ports. Manpower, oil, heavy industry, armaments. Vengeance weapons, perhaps? I don't know, I'm not entirely sure what that one is. Is that the rail hubs? Yeah, there we go, there's the rail yards. That's it, rail yard. Okay, so you can see where the rail yards are here. Obviously, these are the major urban centres. These dots over here represent smaller towns or smaller cities. Obviously, something that doesn't really matter, or villages. Right, so I'm going to target Messina. Now, notice that they're going to be travelling over this path here. What we could do then is lower the flight time. Well, not really lower the flight time, but basically reduce the distance by basing from another airbase. So, starting base, well, staging base, I could have Malta perhaps right over here. I'd like a level 3 airbase. Okay. So if we were to base from Malta, that would probably be a much better path for us, as we're not going across the center of the island. Yeah, this one could work quite well. Though we are flying right over Catania. Okay, that's not bad. I think that works out fairly well for us. We're not heading over any urban centres, so we're not going to be hitting a large amount of flak on the way there. So that's good. So we'll fly from there, we'll base from that island. Okay. So we'll have medium intensity, perhaps. We don't need to go all out quite yet, because this is going to be a prolonged campaign. So what we're going to do then is we're going to see what we have assigned. So we have B-17 Fortresses, we have the B-24 Liberators, B-25s, B-26s, Halifax Bombers, Wellingtons, and yeah, the various models of the Wellington Bombers. Okay, so, obviously this shows you what they can do day or night. In terms of actual escorts, we have the P-38 Lightnings, which are based over here. Okay. So what we need to do then is we need to think about moving up our Lightnings. Basically, these are the escorts, and we do need them. So if we had them based around here to reduce the actual distance that they have to fly, so they'd be able to actually cover the bombers on their way in, we could think about possibly basing them in Tunis, perhaps, or maybe the island here, or Malta itself. Lots of possibilities. So what we'll do then is we'll take a look at air transfer mode. Now, air transfer mode shows all the different planes over here. So you can see numbers. Obviously that's not 3,000, that's like 36, well 306 and 144. I wish it was 3,604, that'd be great. Yeah, you can see the huge amounts of planes in the British Isles and over here in North Africa. And you can also see where the concentrations, or at least the suspected concentrations of Axis warplanes are. So you can also see that they're mainly flying from Catania, which does paint it out as a major target. If we can knock out their principal airbase in the area, that does help us. If we can make it so they find it very difficult or nigh impossible to fly in Sicily, that would be great, so that's obviously going to be an air superiority thing. We don't necessarily have to hit the airfields because we may want to come in there and use them ourselves in the future, which will happen. So less damage to an airfield, the easier and the faster we can get into using it. Though obviously, you want to sort of make it difficult for the Axis to use the actual airfield too, so it's a trading game. You kind of have to think what you want really there, and what's achievable in the short term, and also long term. Okay, so, can sort by aircraft command. So strategic air force we can see here. So we have these Lightnings. These are the ones that we want to move. Yeah, we have P-38 Lightnings. We have some P-40 Warhawks, and they're not exactly too useful right now. Okay, so we have these over here. Right. Okay. So what we want to do then is we want to move these planes. Okay, so we can see where they're based. Which is there. I think. Where are we? Is this the airbase? Right, here we go. That's the airbase. So this is where they are based. So we have the B-25 Mitchells and the Lightnings. Let's take a look at the squadron then. Okay. Here's our Lightnings. So they have the Hispano cannon, and then they have 450 cal Browning machine guns. Also we can change our loadout. So they could carry bombs or even more drop tanks. Having more drop tanks would probably be good so they can increase their range. But obviously if we move them to a airfield that's closer to the front line and the airfield that we choose to operate in, then we can lower the distance and lower the amount of fuel required. If we can drop the drop tanks, that means that we can increase speed and therefore their effectiveness. However, we're going to get on with this and move them up. Now I'm going to have them probably based on the rail line, really, so we can get logistics moving up there. So we'll have them based over here at Calibia. Okay, so that's one airfield there. Right, so if we take a look at the airfield here. Right, so the US Air Force Base. Okay, so we can see here assigned, you can see they've travelled. So we also have some P-40 and Warhawks. Fighter bombers here. Okay. Righto. We'll have to check if that airbase is able to sustain that many numbers. They should be able to. I think this is the limit here, potentially. Ah, right, it seems like they're 51% there, so that's good. So that's fine. That seems to be okay. Potentially, anyway. Moving on. Moving on. I did say I'm not entirely too up to date with one in the west. I'm too used to one in the east at the moment. But either way will change things. Okay. Right, clear all. Right, I've clicked onto a certain type of aircraft and therefore it's only showing that certain type of aircraft, I think. Right, I've shown all there. Wrong button. Okay. Right. So I can't recall what you clicked to turn this off, but basically I've clicked onto something and it's like showing on your set type. Right, here we go. Okay, Strategic Air Force Command then. It shows you all the base is assigned to Strategic Air Force Command. Now what I want to do then is select the other P-38 Lightnings. Yeah, there we go, we can see now where they are. So we have the airbase over here. And I want to change them. I want to move them forward. Though they could probably fly from here. It would be nice just to have them a little bit further up. So what we'll do then is we'll have the other two squadrons move out to here, potentially. There we go, we have them transferred there. Right, so... Yep, 47%. I mean, I could have them pushed to that one airfield too. But I feel better having them in different airfields, just so they can spread out a bit more. Right, okay, so this is now definitely overburdened, so we'll have to move them on further. Right, that one's now overburdened, but what we'll do then is we'll take out the P-40N Warhawks of the Tactical Air Command. Okay. So it's getting close to being full. But there we go. So we've now shifted things. So if we then go to the bombing of the cities again, and we bring up the Strategic Air Force. I have to choose Messina. Yeah, they're not ready right now, because they've already moved. So what we'll do then is we'll potentially... I don't think I'd want to send them without escorts. I mean, I could have some air squadrons reassigned to the Strategic Air Command to act as an escort, but we might leave that for now, and then go next turn when we do have some actual escorts available. So there we go, so this is a preface to the campaign. I may do one or two more prefaces just so we can get the idea of the campaign, the idea of the mechanics, and get just a general idea of what we're going to do. I apologise for my terrible speech. It's one of those things when I record a video, like the first one of the day is always terrible, and then eventually I get warmed up and then things get better. So I hope you guys are excited for this. Do let me know down below what you think of the campaign. And as far as the name of the campaign, I think we may call it The Honesty of Force. I think that sounds like quite a nice name. So until next time, guys, see you all very soon.